Okay, tonight's performance lab, I want to talk to you about some of the common questions that keep coming up. And I'm going to break this down from a point of view of what we need to happen biomechanically to get you into the best, most efficient bowling action. So remember, we're all about efficiency. We don't want the body to have to compensate. This is where the issues come. So let me just look at our body in a symmetrical format. And again, this is something that I'm repeating throughout the week to the players. So I want you to really kind of understand why this is so important. Is our bodies are completely asymmetrical, and that's fine. There's no issue with that. You might have one leg slightly longer than the other. You might have, well, we have the anatomy side of it, our physiology. The right-hand side of the body is heavier. You've got the liver, the diaphragm is bigger on the right than on the left-hand side. So we've got these constant push-pulls going on. We live in straight lines, we drive our cars, we eat, we do everything. And most people, when they come to us, who've just come onto the program, they've trained most of their life in the sagittal plane, push, pull, straight up and straight down. Now there's no straight lines in the bowling action at all. And because of this, we have to train the body in that way. But to start with, we've got to understand is what has the last 10, 15 years of your sporting life done to your skeleton? Or where you spend most of your time environment-wise. If you're a software developer and you're sat on a computer all day working, or you might be on your feet all day, or your environment is going to force your skeleton and all of the tissues, skin, tendons, fascia into a certain position to live in what will be normal for this person here. So that's why we have to assess. So let me just talk you through a little bit about why the right-hand side of the body, if you're a right arm over bowler, is doing the complete opposite to the left-hand side of the body. And this is key to understand. So we talk about the bowling action itself as like dominoes. If you get the first one right, it knocks the second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one. This is why you can't fix the bowling action by just talking about the fifth domino that could be the front arm or front foot contact. You've got to go back. And the first thing we look at is the gait cycle, and then we're into back foot contact. So for a right-handed bowler, this right foot hits the ground. Now we know we need to be able to absorb force, get off that back foot nice and quickly. I always talk to players about literally thinking that you're landing on a sheet of glass, like get off it, bang. Now, you can't think that. This is why the training is so important, and the training plan itself prepares the body for this. Now, what we need to happen on back foot contact, doesn't matter where that right foot is actually positioned, we need to pivot. That pivot through the right hip is internal rotation. So that is at the hip socket and also at the lower limb itself. So we need to pivot internally. But on front foot contact, we need the complete opposite. We need external rotation of the left hip. So you can already see we've got two different roles that need to happen for the pelvis. And if this is my right pocket and this is my left, when I land, I've got to pivot the right pocket to face the batter at ball release. The more we can do that, the more we can get ourselves into a good position to fold forward and not disappear into lateral flexion. Now, one of the tests that I like to play around with, and we've just sort of started to look at this now, is there are different ways of building the player. We know we take a movement first approach at the beginning, which is all assessment led, is can you get into these positions that we require you to without compensation, which is why we screen. But then I also seem to spend quite a lot of time looking at some of the basics around just simple balance. Now, getting into a good position to release the ball it's a split stance position. A lot of people that we see who actually filter into that lateral flexion, when you put them on a very simple balance beam like we've been doing with the players, it's like we've put them up on top of a building with a tightrope. They're like this. Now, if you can't get into a relatively balanced position in this split stance here, the chances are when you run, jump and land, you're going to have some balance issues. So if you can't balance here in this static position under no pressure, no force, no volume, you've got no chance of doing it if you add a run up with 80% of your sprint speed and then try and jump and balance. So balance, stability, coordination are certainly a layer around movement that we've got to nail first. And I think that the biggest thing I want to try to explain to people when they come on to the program, and why so many people get fantastic results in the first 4 to 6 weeks is we go after the low-hanging fruit, but the most important. So it's a lot easier to improve balance than it is to take a deadlift from 100 kilos to 150. Like, we can improve balance in one session. So let me just sort of break down a little bit more around what we need to be able to get into these positions skeleton-wise. So we know we need a nice stable foot, and we know we need good range of motion in the ankles. I constantly talk about the ankles as your shock absorbers on your mountain bike going downhill. If they're working well, they absorb the force. If you turn off those shock absorbers and you go downhill, your whole body's rattling around like you literally got a pneumatic drill. Well, that's what happens if the ankles don't bend and flex and move nicely. We talk a lot about the knee being a simple screw-in joint. It doesn't enjoy too much movement. It's not designed for it. Compared to the hips, as we've said, back foot contact, we need good internal rotation. Front foot contact, we need external. So we need good joint alignment, good joint centration so we can move either way, so we can keep the pelvis nice and level and keep that pelvis moving towards the target. Rib cage, constantly talking to you about it being a nice well-oiled spring. Hip-shoulder separation is when that right pocket drives towards the batter, right shoulder stays back. The capacity then to literally load up the catapult and let it go. So the more that we can increase, you guys are all here for, most of you, for excess speed and staying injury-free, low-hanging fruit. Let's get the pelvis and the rib cage working together. Then we've got that fulcrum and we've got the slingshot working. That's a very, very quick fix. Scapula, we know from a shoulder point of view, it's designed to be stable. It needs to move on the rib cage. We've got the shoulder joint itself and the elbow and the wrist. So, you know, it's so important to understand that your skeleton, based on a week of something different, is going to shift and change. You might go on holiday and sleep in an uncomfortable bed. Big red flag for me at the minute is when I hear that people have got a virus, a flu or a bug coming back after that. The body is in a very different position. That's why at the end, you know, if I'm honest with you, I'm kind of trying to assess people almost on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. And I don't mean you guys need to do the movement screen again, because you're going to have just 2 or 3 patterns that you struggle with that you've got to keep in check. And we had one of the players here in HQ this week, and it was very, very obvious that a lot of the issues he's got with the knee are being caused by a couple of other segments within the body. So we've got to identify that, and you've got to become really in tune with your body. Another phrase I use repeatedly is, we are never going to know your body as well as you do. And I think some people are so disconnected, like you're literally renting the space. You're not in tune with what's going on with your body. So you need to really become that person who understands, okay, I've just been in a car for 4 hours on a Monday. I've just driven back on the Wednesday. I don't feel great. My pelvis feels a little bit stiff and tight. Let me just check in, see what's going on at the hips. Because otherwise all you're going to do is take that skeleton, bring it to training, bring it to game day. And the software, the computer system up here, it knows what resources or what the hardware can or can't do. It knows if that right hip is a little bit stiff. But it also knows that you guys are going to do whatever it takes to get the ball to hit the top of off stump. Now that means if that hip's not moving, we're going to get rotation from another segment. Lumbar spine, knee's going to crank a little bit. So again, just to kind of give you some sort of context, we screen and we assess all the time because it provides us with opportunities and information to get the best out of your body. And really opening up my eyes this week, if you can't get in a very simple split stance position statically here confidently and move, you're not going to do that at 80% of your max run-up speed. Jump and land and think that you're going to balance and actually support it. Now, if you think about it, if I do this badly, so if I go into the bowling position here at the moment and then I can't balance, guess where I go? Now that looks a little bit like lateral flexion to me. So they cannot say, I mean, lateral flexion comes from lots of different things, but I think that we've got to take balance off the list of potential causes for it.